I am a wizard, and I give you perfect power to do whatever you wish to Stephen Miller. What would you do? I know what I would. Yes, things are going crazy in D.C. these days. The pot is boiling over with immigration woes. The Department of Homeland Security is shuttered, all but shuttered, as they look searching for their new crisis. Yes, Trump just fired Kirstjen Nielsen, the woman who infamously refused to commit to the idea that there might be Norwegians in Norway. Yes, this woman who is now Trump-style going down into the history books of this country as the wretch who put babies in cages, right? And if she's not bad enough, who's waiting in the wings to take over now that she's gone? Stephen Miller, the monster who dreamed up this horrific idea of throwing babies in cages. Right, why? How did this come down? Well, see, the thing is, after her friends stopped returning her phone calls and her family started to go to pieces over what she had done, when all these Northern Triangle families from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador started showing up at the border in record numbers because, hey, babies in cages worked so well, Trump decided he needed to throw them in the cage again. And so she said, Mr. President, we can't. So she got fired. Why? Because she's not psycho enough. Who knew? Who knew? No, he needs a true psycho at the helm. And that's when Stephen Miller so eagerly picked up the gauntlet, picked up the mantle. And here we are. How did we get here? How did 53,000 families from the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador suddenly show up at the southern border last month? Well, here's the thing. They actually, Donald J. Trump may not believe this, but they're actually pretty smart people. They can actually watch the news and understand what's happening. And they've been carrying the news of how the American system, with its rule of law, the courts have been smacking Donald J. Trump down on just about every immigration decision he has made over the last 2 years. They're seeing the rule of law in action, and they're thinking, hey, I want some of that. And so they came north. But what's driving them? What's pushing them? Well, it's the absence of rule of law in their country. Yes, it's narco gangs running things. It's old civil wars. It's corrupt politicians, corrupt judges, corrupt cops. The whole system's breaking down. Just take one number alone, one horrific number. The homicide rate. How many per 100,000? Well, in Guatemala, it's around 30, 27. In Honduras, it's twice that, almost 60, right? And in El Salvador, tiny El Salvador, the smallest country in Central America, is basically the size of Massachusetts, right? But whereas in Massachusetts, like the rest of the United States, in terms of size and population, right, as El Salvador, in Massachusetts, the homicide rate is 5 per 100,000. What is it in El Salvador? The same size in area, same size as population? It's over 80. Huh. Yeah, I'd stay there. You know what? I'd go all postal on them. You know, if the street gangs and narco gangs started getting out of line, I'd just take out my AR-15. That's what I would do. And I'd just go lay into them with my bump stock. Yeah, just mow them all down, right? In fact, and then now that I've gone beyond the rule of law and beyond the protection of the law, I might have to have my own street gang. Yeah, I'll just grab the neighbors' kids, you know, the boys, and, you know, force them to work for me because I threaten to kill their parents and make them my own private goons, my own private army. And then why stop there? Why not grab their girls and start raping them? You know, threaten them with killing their parents. Yes, it'll work. It's a perfect scenario. It's like Dick Cheney's wet dream. Anyway, yes. Here we are. Yeah, or maybe I would do the rational thing and just leave Massachusetts, right? Maybe go across the border to New Hampshire, New York, Connecticut, someplace like that, anywhere where there's the rule of law again. And that's what they're doing. That's what those Northern Triangle families are doing. They are just one country away, after all, right? Now, we can sort of like tune them all out, you know, just like Stephen Miller is saying, well, you know, yes, it's terrible for them, but, you know, it's really not our problem. And he's right. It's not. We can just close our eyes, close our ears, not hear a thing until they suddenly show up at our doorstep. And that's what's happening. He's supposed to think this through. He's the domestic policy advisor to the President of the United States of America. He's supposed to think this through, but he's not. Just like this idea of the wall, the border wall that he keeps peddling. They keep saying, well, it worked in Israel with the West Bank. It kept Israel safe from those suicide bombers, and why not? He's Jewish, or at least he pretends to be from time to time, descended from Ashkenazis in Europe, right? Well, and he's right. It did work. It does work. The West Bank barrier did stop the suicide bombers. But here's the thing, Stephen. Look at a map. The West Bank wall is 200 miles long. The southern border is 10 times that, 2,000 miles long. And then, too, what is the West Bank? What's it guarding what from what? City blocks. It's heavily urbanized. It's really easy to maintain. You've got all those buildings in the way, right? What's the southern border with Mexico? Look at a map, Stephen. It's wasteland, desert. What's to stop? Say you build your 2,000-mile wall. What's to stop some coyote from just coming along, with a hatchet and hatching away through the wall to bring in the next wave of migrants? Really, honestly, get a grip. But he doesn't think things through, right? This is his MO. Stevie has always been about Stevie, whether he was in high school and hammering the principal and the teachers because they weren't doing the Pledge of Allegiance enough, or whether he's defending the cross team at Duke University's constitutional right to rape a woman just because she's a stripper and black, or whether he's graduating, getting a PhD in the Jeff Sessions School of Racism disguised in constitutional law, congressional resolutions. Yes, it's always the same two plays in his playbook. He's got 2 pages. The first is he just adopts an extreme position at the outset, right? And, most people are pretty nice, and they tend to take people at face value and say, oh, you really want that? Well, let's just talk about it, and I'm sure we can come to some sort of agreement, not realizing that they've just given up half of the field with that one move. But if you do understand that sort of rhetorical device of his, well, then he starts, and you shut him down really fast, he just starts lying. Blithely, boldly, blandly, with that heavy-lidded look, his eyes like that, his voice just sounding like a plumber, kind of sleepy, but then swiftly getting strident as he goes on and on. Lie 17, lie number 18, lie number 19, lie number, and so on. Right? Shut him down then, he just turns the page, goes back to play number 1, changes the subject, and adopts a extreme position. But here's the thing. He's been doing this for 33. He's 33 years old, so he's probably been doing it since he was 15, which means for over half his life it's been working. But now he's finally met his match in Donald J. Trump. The man, the arch criminal who has a superpower. He can turn schmucks into villains, right? Because I know what Stephen Miller did. He's probably, cut himself off from everybody else. He's probably popping pills these days to keep himself going. He's convinced himself that he, and he alone, Donald J. Trump style, can fix the immigration problem, which is not fixable, not the way they're doing it, right? He went to Daddy Trump, and he said, she's a girl, Kirstjen Nielsen. She's weak. You need a man to fix this problem. And hey, that makes sense to Daddy Trump. So he said, yes, we'll give it all to Stephen Miller. Right. And what's their solution? What is the solution? We've known about it for over a decade. You need to go down there Joe Biden style and work with those presidents to rebuild their rule of law. Rebuild their infrastructure so the farmers can get their crops to market. Give them lots of reasons to stay and not come here. Not just build a wall and cut off all funding to them to support them. No, but that's what he's going to try. And so my guess is I think in about 3 to 6 months, when Donald J. Trump is seriously starting to run for president a second time, and the numbers of families at the southern border is skyrocketing even beyond what they just have, he'll start screaming for Stephen Miller's head on a plate. So, what would I do? If I gave you perfect power, what should we do? I would do absolutely nothing. Because Stephen Miller is going to put his balls into the vise all by himself. Thank you very much. He does not need our help. I'm looking forward to it. Aren't you?